Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 54 of Shrigleytube TV. Thanks very much for everybody that made a comment regarding the microphone. I found the one I want to buy, so I'll be getting that ordered soon, and then hopefully we can improve the quality of the videos for you guys and for me as well. So yeah, that was great. I'm sorry there was no midweek video, just life was hectic, and yeah, we'll have to get back onto the YouTube job. Just been so busy, I've not even done that much filming. It's a bit bitsy this week. You may love it, you may hate it, but the beauty of YouTube is you can either fast forward or turn me off if it starts to bore you. So hope you enjoyed tonight's episode, and I look forward to seeing you all next Sunday at 7 PM. Bye for now. Good morning, YouTubers. Welcome to Shrigleytube. Or welcome back, should I say. Little job that's just popped in through the door here. Local lad came with it. I just thought I'd make a video about it because it's something we have covered in the past, but it's something I'm doing more and more of. It's just basically I had a set of iron guides put in it. Going to recut the seats and reskim the face and sort out the wheel spring grooves. Now, when they brought it to me, I had a quick look at it. It had a previous repair with number 4 cylinder, and there's a lot of porosity in the weld. You've got to use the right type of rods when you're welding aluminium, especially this old high silicon aluminium, or you get air bubbles in it when you're welding it. And if you break into an air bubble when you're machining it, it's like dubious as to whether it'll work or not. So what we've done is we've re-welded it, ground it all out. I didn't take a video beforehand, unfortunately. So just got this video here. So all I've done so far is to route it all out with the hurdy-gurdy. I filled it full of weld, and we're going to skim it together now, and then we're going to remachine the wheel string grooves, and hopefully we'll get a bit of an idea of what state the head's in once we've done the first pass. I suspect it's bent like a banana. I'll get it in a sec. Okay, YouTubers, the heads had the seats cut. I've just took a very minimum amount of material off the seats, so it hasn't given it all 3 angles. It's just given it one good one where the seat actually sits, because I didn't want to take any material off it and end up with the valves sat the wrong side of the chamber face. So done that, and given it a bit of a clean up and a steam. And the chap who owns it, we're gonna bully him into talking for a minute. It's Andy. Andy's got a G15. Welcome to Shrigleytube, Andy. Now, top man. Well, thanks for talking on here. What I was going to say was, you're building this engine yourself with Ron Speed, aren't you? So you've got it all cleaned, and you've measured this and measured that and put new this in it. And tell us a little bit about the car and a bit about your background, because you've done well, you've been in motorsport all your life, really, haven't you?
I've done a little bit on and off. Wheel sports cars, touring cars, other aspects like that, but not done that for a long while now.
Right. Well, tell us about this G15 that you're building. A bit special in it. It's a bit of aero on it.
The idea is to build it up a little bit different to what most people in the owners club would do. So looking at different pedal boxes, different brake system, bespoke loom. It's got a full point-to-point cage in it, and looking at how to control the airflow mainly under the car, trying to get some of the tricks used in bits of racing, so I can get the airflow better under the car, so we can get it a little bit more slippery and a bit more interesting and more fun to drive than so.
Excellent. Well, when you've done it, will you come down here and let's have a look at it?
If YouTube still exists, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it will next year, Andy.
Yeah. The tub's going to be ready September. Engine build will carry on, gearbox build through there, so maybe it'll be a reasonable rolling shell by the end of the year. You can come over to Ron's and have a look at it and film it.
I'd love to. Brilliant. Right, well, we'll let you get this packed up now, and we'll look forward to the next stage in the build. Okay, YouTubers, we've got Jeremy here with me. He's brought his engine and gearbox, and I'm going to hand you over to Jeremy in a second. He's going to tell us all about how he's come into the Hillman world, and he'd like to start racing in the CTCC next year with James and the rest of the gang. So Welcome to the show, Jeremy. Thanks for agreeing to come on and talk to the viewers and myself. What's this all about? Why an imp? And have you done anything before?
An imp. My older brother used to have an imp back when we were really small, back in the 80s, and that's what sort of got my interest in it.
Right.
And just always loved the fact it was such a revving sort of little engine, and the fact it was different. The engine was in the boot.
Yeah.
And yeah, for a couple of years now, I've always fancied racing an imp, and finally I've gone mad, and I've got one, and hopefully going to do some racing in the CTCC.
Brilliant. Well, Jeremy just showed me a picture on his phone. I'm going to try and zoom in on it now. This is the car that he's just bought. And where was it for sale? Was it Race Cars Direct?
Yeah, it was on Race Cars Direct. Yeah,
It looks fast. Hope it's not faster than mine. And have you got a picture of your one from when you was a child and your brother's car?
Yeah, I'll find that.
Great. I'll just talk about the engine for a minute. Basically, Jeremy's brought his engine and gearbox down. We said we'd have a quick once over. It had a little bit of an oil leak on the back of the engine, so we think we're going to be able to sort that out. And I said, while we're here, we haven't got time to get involved with it, but we'll have a quick look at the crankshaft, and we're happy to report that it all looks in good condition. We weren't really sure when it was last looked at, but yeah, he says it runs fine and it's got good oil pressure, so everything looks okay. We just got the sump off, and we've had a look at some of the big ends and stuff, and the crankshaft, had a bit of a measure of it all. Also, these are some ratios that we've took out the gearbox because it was on like a hill climb setup. In fact, I wrote them down, so it was really low, so we've put him on like a traditional long circuit set of ratios, so he can come to Thruxton at the end of the year hopefully and enjoy going around. Although we have just been having a little chat about potentially going to Gold Cup at the end of the month. Maybe. So we're going to get into Mr. Platts in a minute and find out if there's any entry spaces left in the Gold Cup for him. But sorry, have you got the picture there?
That's a picture of my younger brother and I in about 1988 with his. That's my older brother's matte black.
With a Ferrari badge on it.
Ferrari badge.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So just going back to talking about the car. Sorry, I've not got the focus on you here. I was going to say, you had a little dabble before, did you, in something else?
Well, I bought an Austin A30. It was an academy car, and then basically, cut a long story short, there wasn't enough of the cars to make the grid all the same, and then they ended up adding you to the back of other grids with other cars that were more competitive. So I didn't really persevere with that dream, really. Right, so hence, I think the Imp will be more fun.
Oh, I think you'll love racing the Imp, and it looks like you've bought the right kit of bits. You know, it looks like it's all there. You might have to do a few little bits and pieces just to. But for the first year, realistically, you're going to be learning tracks and getting to use the car, and just get track time. Really is the most important thing, and then go from there. And when you're really good, you can just break down like me. I hope not. Right. Well, Jeremy, thank you very much for agreeing to come on Shrigleytube. And well, hopefully we'll see you at Gold Cup. If not, definitely at Thruxton.
Yes, thank you. That's the plan.
Excellent. Good morning, YouTubers. It's time for Dom's father's engine to get dynoed. So I thought before we dynoed it, we'd just do a little chat about the spec of it. Now, this engine initially, he wanted a 998 to put in his other van, or I think it might be a Husky that he's got. Hence why it's got the different type of snout on it for the oil filler, because on the Husky it has like a bulkhead here that the oil filler attaches to. Now, we had a chat and he said, oh, we'll put it on a big Solex and a nice exhaust manifold, etc. And then he rang me, he said, I've actually got a pair of Webbers and a manifold, can we use that? So I said, well, yeah, we can make it a go faster one if you want. If you're going to go to single choke per cylinder, then we can put a camshaft in it, you know, like a high lift racing camshaft. So we've gone for like an R20, which is a good 85, 90 horsepower cam, and it'll work from like 4,000 RPM, so it'll be okay on the road. So that's where we're at. It's actually a 1012cc engine, so it's an overboard 998. So it's 73mm bore instead of 72.5. It's at the rear oil seal conversion, so hopefully it's nice and dry underneath here, so no oil leaks, which is obviously a handy thing. They don't always stay oil dry, but for the time being it's oil dry anyway. They're much better than the scroll that comes from the factory anyway, than with the scroll seal we talked about in the last episode. So it's just to run through it, it's basically a wet lined 73mm bore with new pistons, etc. Good standard size crankshaft with no strengthening plate or anything. It's going in a road car, and it's got the original sump on so that the radiator can fit alongside. And then in the head, it's a nice sport casting. I've just fettled the ports a little bit. The ports are really good on a standard Imp Sport, just as standard, but because we've gone bigger on capacity, I've put it on a 1.3 and 1.125 exhaust, so it has got slightly bigger valves. As you saw the head last week anyway, and then it's got this old school Jan Speed manifold, which is seems to be working quite well, so that's all good. R20 camshaft, obviously it's got steel followers and the double valve springs, etc. with the stainless valves. So moderate compression ratio, it worked out 11.1 to 1, so that's perfect for an engine that's going to run on the road. If he has to buy some nasty Asda petrol, he can do, and it won't start pinking or anything, it'll be absolutely fine. So not too high like the Racers where we're aiming for more like a 12.5 to 1, but for this, on being a road car engine, it's absolutely fine on 11. Now, one thing that Andy always asks me about is how we measure the power on a dyno, so I thought while we're here we'll have a quick chat. So this is the big needle that when I'm stood in the other room you see it go round, and these blue numbers are the torque figures, so that's like 73 foot-pounds, 68 foot-pound, etc. Now what happens is, in the middle here we have an RPM figure, so the torque is just simply the amount of push the engine has, but because every revolution carries a certain amount of push, if we multiply the torque, so say you've got 68 foot-pound of torque, multiply that by 7,000, say it's doing it at 7,000 RPM, and then divide it by the equation, that number 5252, that's what gives us a horsepower figure. So I'll just get a calculator, we'll do an example of that together. Right, okay, so let's say this engine's quite a good one and it works out well, and let's say it does, I don't know, let's say it does 73 foot-pound, and the RPM, say it's doing 6,000 RPM. So we'll do a little equation. So we want to know what the work done is. So we know it's got 65 foot-pounds of torque. That's the amount of push the engine's got. We multiply it by the amount of times it's doing it, which should be 6,000 RPM, and then we divide it by this figure, which I don't know what it's about, but it's a figure that everyone uses, 5252. That's the standard number, and that should give us 74 horsepower. So if it's still held on a little bit more, we might see 80 horsepower out of it. If it's still doing sort of 73 at 657. So that's when I'm just wanted to explain to you, when I'm on the dyno and I'm saying like, oh, it's hanging on or whatever, I'm saying it's still producing torque at high RPM, because it's the amount of torque it produces multiplied by the RPM. That's what gives us the work done figure, and that's what ultimately is your horsepower. That is the actual energy, that's what's pushing you forward when you're on the track or on the road or whatever. So the torque is the push, and the horsepower is the work done, the actual, you know, the amount of energy you've got there to project you forward. So great. I probably just confused everybody and confused myself there and probably got most of it wrong, but you if you had no idea, you probably got a little bit more of an idea now. Right, let's get it fired up and wind it up and see what happens. Okay chaps, not sure whether this is quite going to zoom in correctly, but you probably often hear me say about the engine's going rich or it's going lean or whatever. So inside the Weber carburetor you've got 4 of these, one for each choke, so each cylinder has its own little jet assembly. This is the main circuit. We have also got a slow circuit, which I won't go into now. So we have something called a main jet. Now the main jet has a size on it, so this one's a 125, yeah, and that's what I'm going to put, well, that's what I took out of this, because what I do is when I start dynoing the engines, I always go up on the main size, just while we find out how much advance the engine wants, so we know we've got plenty of fuel. We don't want it going lean and then trying to work out if it's having a rattle or not with the advance in the ignition timing. So we start with them rich, which is what I've just done, and I'm now going to change the main jet. Now just to give you a bit of an idea, the way this works is we have obviously you can't probably quite see it, it's a 125. That's the size of the hole in the main jet. Then this part is called the emulsion tube. So the emulsion tube that we're using today is an F16. Now that's the emulsion tube decides where the carburetor does the most fuel. So an F16 does a lot of, it's a good emulsion tube for an imp because it does a lot of fuel up at the top, where a lot of engines are falling off cam and they can't burn the fuel. An imp will carry on burning fuel because it's a short stroke, high revving engine, you see. So we use the F16s in a lot of the engines, a lot of the races. And obviously it's having an R20 cam, it's borderline whether it'll have an F16 or an F15. We'll have to see how we get on. Now in the top of the emulsion tube is something called an air correction jet. So that's an air jet, not a fuel jet basically, and that's a 180 on this. 175, sorry. So by if you go bigger on the air corrector, you actually go leaner on the fuel, whereas if you go bigger on the jet, the main jet, you go richer. So the air, because it's an air jet rather than a fuel jet, it works the opposite way. So you go bigger on the air correction, you go leaner. If you go bigger on the fuel, you go richer. So it just works the opposite way around. But you get used to it all this. It's quite simple and straightforward. And the beauty of a Weber, why I love them so much over a Stromberg, is they're a fixed jet carb. So once they're right, they stay right. Yes, they do go out of balance, and yes, you do have to mess around with the slow running circuit to get them to idle right and stuff. But it's a fixed jet carb, and they're a good carburetor. So that's a little bit of a look into the jets. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a set of 120 mains and I'm going to bring some fuel out of it, and we'll see how that affects the engine on the dyno, and we'll decide where we want to be with it all at the end. Okay, something else I just wanted to say about the main jets. Obviously the size of the hole is critical. Now you can see what happens is we end up with a situation where we've got new jets and old jets, because some cars, obviously I buy new ones in when I run out, so when I take a jet of jets out of an old carburetor, I put them back in the box. But every now and again, and you can get really caught out with this, we get a situation where somebody has took the carburetors to be tuned by someone and they've re-drilled the jets. So it may say 125 on the main jet, but the hole may have been drilled to a 130, a 135, a 140 or whatever. So if you are tuning your car at home, there's a really easy and simple way of making sure that all your jets are the correct size. All you need is an old imp needle out of a Stromberg carburetor. Because it's got a gentle taper on it as it gets bigger, when you pop it inside the end of the jet, you can see where it stops, and as long as they're all the same, you know that the holes are all the same. So none of them jets have been re-drilled, they are all 120 mains. So little tip there in case you're wondering, you know, because I've been caught out in the past where I've had an engine, it's not doing what I'm expecting it to do. I'm like, what is going on here? And yeah, the jets have been drilled and haven't been remarked or anything. So yeah, always check your jet is what it says it is. Okay, we're up and running now. I've finished tuning it, messed around with the fuel a bit. It's a bit of a funny compromise, this engine, because I know that Andy's going to put it in a road van and use it on the road. When I built the engine, I put quite a lot of advance on the cam because I wanted the cam to start earlier than it would normally do. I.e., I didn't want him to have a flat spot straight off idle, because the carburetors are quite big, even with their small 30mm choke in them. If you give it too much throttle before the airspeed's got a chance to catch up, you know, say if you give it wide open throttle at 2000 RPM, you just get stalled. So the hole is too big, there's no airspeed, and the carburetor effectively can't let any fuel go through the jets because there's no depression, because there's no airspeed basically. So you get a big lean spot and the car just goes blah, 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 blah. Anyway, what I'm trying to avoid with all that is, hence why I've left their head pretty much standard. It's in sport casting, they are a good port, apart from where I've matched it to the manifold on the head, on the outside of the port, you know, where it meets the gasket. So what I'm doing with setting it up here is I'm trying to find the best compromise, because there's no point in having 90 horsepower at 7,000, 7,500 RPM if it's a complete nightmare for him to deal with down below. So we've sacrificed the top end to get the bottom end right. So this does go lean top end, there's no doubt about it. I'm on a smaller main jet now than I was before, but it cleans up at 3.5 and 4,000. So what you'll see in a minute is I get good figures from from idle. You know, if I go wide open now, quite a lot of load there, straight to 3,800 RPM with a good steady 65 foot-pound of torque, which will make it a nice drive. You know, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to tailor the tuning of the engine to the person that's going to be driving it and knowing what he's doing with it. If he said he was going to put in his lightweight track car, then we'd put bigger jets in it, retard the cam timing, and probably put a bit more advance in it and let him go. But obviously that's not what he's doing with it, so we're just we're doing tailored tuning, we'll call it. So I'll try and get it a bit lower. It's really tractable, this, so I can literally go wide open throttle, 2,500 RPM, go wide open, and it holds 3,063 foot-pound, no problem. So that's quite friendly for an imp engine, that, really, especially with twin 40s on it. So it's all doing what I want it to do. It doesn't do big horsepower figures. It's showing, I think we saw roughly about 65 foot-pound, 68 foot-pound at 7,000, which I think was about 85, 90 horsepower, which is where I'd expect it to be. We'll do some top end stuff now. We'll try and grab it at sort of 5, and then we'll back it off and let it run out. So it's got it at 5 there, it's got nearly 73 foot-pound. 5.5, still the same. 6,000, starting to fall off. 68 there, 70. 7,000, it's still got, we go 7.5, drops right off. So it's going lean to the point it's holding back on the horsepower, but it's not bothering it, as in it's not going to start detonating or having a big whoopsie. So I'm quite happy with that now. Just check the bottom end again, make sure that bottom end torque is still friendly. The dyno finally gets hold of it. So that's our 3.7 figure, or 3.9. Go wide open there. Yeah, straight round to 65 foot-pound. That'll make it a nice drive. Right, brilliant. We'll call that in the out tray and get on with the next job. Okay, YouTubers, I'm just trying to do a bit of a pull on this rear quarter on the Mercedes that's bent. The sill's caught something, it's gone over a big curb or something. It has damaged the bottom of the door there, so we'll have to get that repaired. But I thought, as it hasn't damaged the paint, if I could get this back out level, you can see where it should be. It's something like, we might have to paint that bit. So I've devised this little setup where we've got a ramp leant against an MGB cylinder head and the ramp, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to prise it with the wood off this edge and try and pull it back. So we'll see how we get on. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of wood against there and put my bar in. Be careful I don't slip and wreck the car, that'll be disastrous. Let's just see if it wants to play. Oh, look at that. Oh my word. I'm a jig man. Look at that. That's come a right load, that has. What we need is we need more on this bit. Just move them along a bit. Oh, I see we can't. Oh, I see we go that way. There you go, that'll pull. Oh, in danger of going a bit far with that bit. Crikey, that's come out absolutely. There's more here. Right, I'll pause whilst I go and look at the other side. Right, that's pulled better than I ever thought it would pull. The danger is I've got a little bit of a hump here because this hole is pulled too far. That's not a problem because I can go back. So we're going to move out of this hole now and pull from here to try and get this bit out. And we've got a bit more there. And I think we'll get that pretty much where it needs to be. Right, I've re-drilled the hole. Let's see if we can get a bit more up the front. How's that looking now? Okay, YouTubers, believe it or not, it's back together and it runs a treat. I'll knock it off because it's a noisy thing. I just thought I'd set it running because probably no one will believe me. I actually got it back together again. But yeah, all that remains now is to get the car vaulted and a bit of bodywork on that rear wing where I had to pull it back out again because it had a bit of damage to the sill. So I pulled it, it's straight, so minimum amount of body filler now to get it back together. Now what I was going to say, I've got one piece to put back on, which is the engine cover, and it's not often I go in reverse gear, but what I will say is, although I did have a bit of a love-hate relationship with doing this job, I will say that the car went back together really well, and considering how many miles it had done, 170,000 miles, all the zip ties that I chopped off were first time round, you know, the ones that I removed. No one had ever been here, so it had done 170,000 miles with all that complication and never actually gone wrong. All the injectors came out perfectly, all the seats were fine. Obviously the oil cooler O-rings had gone hard. Excuse me. But the basics of what I'm saying is, you know, all the systems were still working, so now it's all back together, it's not leaking oil. And I've got to say, whoever designed it, you know, you can't actually put anything wrong because everything's the correct length. You can't even get the pipes the wrong way because then they won't reach the next part, you know what I mean? So everything has to go back exactly as it came apart. And then I was questioning this and I said, why would you put the ECU on top of the airbox and it's air cooled? Wow. So there you go. You live and learn every day. So it's back together anyway, and it's reminded me of how much I hate mechanicking, and that I'm so lucky to be able to stand at a desk or a bench building Hillman engines every day. So hopefully this will be a good car now for the wife, and it'll put a smile on her face. So all this row going on outside here, lad. What's going on here, pal?
We've realised that we're not quite the fabricators we once thought we was.
Are you a fabricator as well as a body jig alignment man?
Well, no, we're not fabricators, as we've proved with this. We're trying to make a water tank and it's leaking like mad, so we're sending it to a professional to be finished.
A professional?
Well, he's not much of a professional either, but probably better than we are. So.
Just in case you're wondering what this is, these lads don't run radiators in the banger cars. They run a steam tank, so it just has the volume of water to cool the engine. And then what do? Do you drop it after the race and change it for cold water?
Yeah, so we'll put like a little bung in the front, drain it, and then fill it back up with cold. Obviously you can't do it too fast, otherwise you'll start cracking the block or whatever else.
Yeah, so they get hot and then you change the coolant.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, and I suppose it saves having radiator, because the bangers used to have radiator pipes, didn't they, and radiators in the back window. You don't want them in a crash, do you?
No, we don't need that.
It's a shame that you've got all that weight, because that's the passenger side, and you turn right, don't you?
Yeah, that's the way what we've made it so the engine fits inside. Like obviously this is cut out here for the engine.
Oh right.
So.
But what I mean is, if you're turning right all the time, if you put the weight on this side, you could have some more inside weight.
You're not allowed them to go down the driver's side, because when you hit something, I think this is the rule. Like if it comes back, it's on your feet and your legs.
Oh, of course, right.
So you're only allowed to go down the passenger side.
Do you bolt this to the chassis leg as well down here?
No, there's a new rule, and we're hoping that that's in with the rule. It's got to be a gap from the chassis leg of 30 mil, like. So we've tried, but I mean, everybody's measurements are different, aren't they?
Well, once it's had a few laps, it might bend. You know, that 30 mil could become 25 mil with a bolt through it.
Well, but yeah, my missus can vouch for my measurements being off, I think.
Right, thanks for that little insight, Jack. Look at this absolute piece of treasure that's just pulled up outside. I know, I've asked the same question. He's just a smooth guy in the old Bergerac. He's got a lot of money and a lot of finesse when it comes to picking a classic car. Look at that. How's it going? Sarah, how happy are you that your head gasket's been done?
Well, I'm happy, except we've got more issues now.
More
Got a bit
issues.
of an oil pressure issue at the moment.
Oil pressure?
It just never ends.
Oh no.
I think we'll be alright. I think it just needs some fresh oil. Obviously, it probably had some coolant in the sump, didn't it?
Right, yeah.
Needs a flush after a couple hundred miles.
Can you get a sump off easy?
We'll see, won't we?
Because it might be worth just checking the gauze in blocked. You should do that for Sarah, even if it's sub-frame down job, you know.
You reckon? Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you want to help?
I'm just a little bit busy with the wife's car. We're just on the home run with it. It's going to be finished today.
Is it running now, yeah?
It runs a treat. Yeah, so.
Said goodbye to Sarah's Fit 500.
Have you?
Car is gone, yeah.
The temporary. It's lovely, this little Ferrari. So lucky. Yeah, brilliant. Right, well, have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon. Okay, YouTubers, thanks for tuning in tonight and watching tonight's programme. If you made it to the end without falling asleep, that's a real bonus. I look forward to seeing you all next Sunday. Have a great week. Bye for now.